Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the worst sports car designs of 1995. And yes, this could easily be just a list of Fleer designs for the most part, which I already did last week. And the reason I did it last week was I didn't want to make this a list where I'm deciding all of the different designs from Fleer, how they fit in with other designs. I wanted to distill it down to just one or a couple of designs that were distinct, that needed to be specified as the representative of Fleer. So I'm only taking 2 spots for Fleer designs here on this list, and I'm giving the rest of the room for other designs that are, well, still a lot of Fleer designs, but not Fleer proper. And I got to note that I do not have football on this list because the 2 football designs that were right for this list were Pacific and Ultra, which at the end of the day, the images on those cards come through beautifully, and the design doesn't really ruin them. The designs try to, but they don't quite succeed in ruining them, and so I don't hate the cards. And that's the thing. All of the cards on this list are disappointments to me. Those 2 aren't really disappointments as much as they could be a lot better. So I'm leaving them off the list, which doesn't keep Fleer Ultra off the list, but it means that for football started from to all the way up to the top. There was nothing in football that was just bad in 1995. So that's kind of a blessing. So they don't show up here on the list, but all the ones on this list do bother me. Starting off with what I consider to be the best of all of these, which is Topps D3. Now, D3, the whole concept of it was to be lenticular, but not lenticular like the Sportflics cards. The Sportflics cards, I never liked the way that they were built because they look big and cheap, and they look like the kind of things that you should expect in a Kellogg's box, not in a pack of cards. Now, they do have some really great effects with Sportflics, but overall, the problem with Sportflics is the fact that they don't feel like cards. They don't look like cards. They don't seem like it. And what Topps wanted to do was they wanted to take a finer construction of lenticular cards that still didn't seem quite like cards, but were a lot closer, and gave an interesting kind of a 3D effect, which that's exactly what this technology allows. The problem is that it doesn't come through with the clarity that I'd like to see, which means you never really get to see the image. You kind of see the effect, but you don't see the image. And even the design on the card, which I think is pretty strong, you can't really see the design either. Now, when they do have colors to work with, the colors can be really rich. And I like the cards. I just can't see the cards. And that's not good. So in this case, this is a card that should have been much better crafted. And even when Sky Motion would do it in 1996, same exact problem. I hate the fact that the technology was so close to being really good, because everything about the design of the card I think is good. It's so close, but they didn't get the technology right, at least for mass manufacturing. So unfortunately, it's a big letdown. Now, my next honorable mention is Fleer Ultra, specifically for baseball and for hockey. Now, in the case of baseball, this is a case where the design on the card is good, is strong. I like the design on the card, and I think it's well placed. Having that subtractive and additive text at the bottom where you have a box and then a not box, and then you have the logo that's stenciled in right above it, the way that all that looks is perfect to put right down at the bottom of a card below a good image. And they do have good images. Not quite as good as football, but really close. The problem with this card, though, is that the foil color is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Where in football, it looks like there's a plaque that's stuck on there and it doesn't fit with the image. So you have an image and you have a plaque that are both taking up the same real estate. In the case of baseball, it does end up kind of fitting in with the card and with the image, and it depletes it. It drains so much energy out of the image, to the point where when I look at the card, I'm wondering why they have that foil. I'm not looking at the image, I'm wondering why the foil is that color. If you're going to present an image, the best way to do it is what Fleer Ultra did in 1994, where they just have a thin band of gold foil at the bottom. Okay, they have the logo, but basically you have just a little bit. And what it does is it elevates the image and says, here is the image. Check out the image. Love this image. That's what you're supposed to do. In the case of the 1995 design, they have a feature that has a great ability to work with the rest of the card. It's just that with the particular colors of foil, they don't have the strength to stand out, and instead they kind of pull into the image, and they don't look like they belong. I mean, the colors are just, why did they choose those colors? But as understated as those are, when we move over to hockey, now hockey is doing the exact opposite in just about every way, where they have strong gold foil, which is good if you have something to look at, but what they have is not something to look at. I really don't. There's like a diamond type of a pattern with some spikes coming off of it and foil. And then inside of all of that is a color that means that it's kind of enunciating that it's there, and it's making sure that you go and you pay attention to this really dumb design at the bottom. So where in baseball they had a good design where the foil failed it, here they have a bad design where the foil failed it by bringing your attention to it. It's Fleer Ultra couldn't win with these two sports. At least they had basketball, so I'll give them that. But my last honorable mention is another Fleer set, which is Metal, specifically for hockey. Now, this is a tricky one, because in the case of Fleer Metal, the idea was, hey, let's do an entire set of brushed metal. Dude, great idea. In fact, Pinnacle already did that with Dufex, but Dufex is on a whole nother plane. But just with playing around with brushed metal is a cool idea. And 1995 was a year where we were starting to see that, because you had Pacific, where they did an entire die-cut card set with Crown Royale, which did have not so much etching, but it had some relief work in the card design. They also had Gridiron, which were oversized. So in 1995, there were some experiments. Well, Topps D3. So I like the fact that Fleer tried an experiment with brushed metal. The problem is that the design, that they hadn't really figured out if they were going to do a design set, or the design for a set with the level of care that Pinnacle put in with their Dufex cards. Some of the cards do have a really good pattern to them. Some of them not so much. But look, at the end of the day, I'm not knocking these cards for the particular patterns behind them, because some of them are fun, some of them not so much. Some of them with a certain pattern might work or might not. It's kind of all over the map, but I don't mind that. The problem I have is that down at the bottom, where they have the design feature for the player name, that does not fit with the card in any way. I look at that and I automatically go, oh, so this is like a subset or a theme within the set. No, this is the way all the cards are. It's not designed either with the card or against the card. Because, okay, let's go over to basketball. Here in basketball, we have that big basketball logo. And the basketball logo is, it's a lot, but at least it's a strong, distinct theme. That's the thing I like about the Fleer Metal cards in basketball, is that logo is clear, it's concise, and so it has its own aesthetic strength. You go over to hockey, and it doesn't have any of that. It's stuffed down the corner, and it looks like it looks like a problem with the card, almost like the corner is bent, and you look down there and go, oh no, that was supposed to be there, that was intended to be there. That's kind of the thing, is you look at it and you really don't get this feeling like it was supposed to be there. And shouldn't a design look like it is intended to be that way? They need to have something that's more distinct and clear and crafted, well crafted to work on this card. And that's not what they did on this card, so yeah. But I just realized I've been talking for a while, and I haven't even gotten to the list of the top 5. We are now here, and I guess I'll probably be moving kind of quickly through this. But yeah, Fleer Metal is outside of the top 5, gives you an idea of what we're looking at. Starting with Parkhurst. Finally, we're away from Fleer. We had the Topps card, but here we are with another non-Fleer card with Parkhurst, where this is a card that has so much on it. This is a case where a designer they had everything to work with and they said, let's do it all. It reminds me of, and I know this is going to sound weird, but bear with me. It reminds me of teenage girl fashion, where for a lot of girls, they want to look sophisticated, and the idea is, I'm going to put it on a bunch of sophisticated things, and I'm going to look fabulous. And so you get 16 necklaces, and you get 2 boas, and you get a hat with a peacock feather coming out of the top, 3 different colors of makeup, and I don't know, a sequin jacket. I'm throwing stuff out here. But I'm sure that there are some girls out there who, if they heard all that, went, I'm going to do that. And I know that because they don't just stop when they're teenagers. They do that when they're 20s and in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s and 60s and 70s. And they keep doing it forever. And it's like, you didn't work when you were young. It doesn't work when you're older. It looks cheap. It looks tacky. And it looks like you're a mess. That's what this Parkhurst card is. It is a mess. You can take a couple of these things and kind of play around with them and do some interesting things, but when you do everything all at once, you do nothing. It is a big mess of stuff. Nothing about this card grabs your eye. Where is the player? Good luck. I mean, where's Waldo on this card? It is, whew, boy. Yeah, not the finest moment for Parkhurst. But that kind of segues me into my number 4, which is Jam Session. So Jam Session, this is really interesting because I really, really like the text for the player name. I do. And the floating Jam Session logo, I look at that and I go, oh, there's so much potential. It's playful, it's energetic, it is youthful. I like all of that. But what they did at the top was built around the idea that they were going to have all these cards die cut. And if you have an oversized card that you die cut, you got to do something bold for the die cutting for it to be distinct. And that's what they did. They did bold. They didn't do interesting. They did bold. And obviously we're not here to talk about the die cuts. We're here to talk about the main cards. So what you do for those die cut, the not yet die cut cards, is work with the theme. Okay, but it's busy in an annoying way. The Jam Session text, I don't think works on the card. The colors, though, the colors are terrible. Now, I don't mind the colors for the text because that is playful. But up at the top, I want to be thinking team colors. And while technically these may very well be team colors, they're not the team colors. They are variations on the theme, and they don't look like the sport. They look like they're trying to be something for kids. And if this was fun packs, if it was triple folders, well, with those cards, I look at them and I go, that's designed for kids, but I can get into the groove of it and appreciate it for the youthful quality of it. I can like those cards. I'm not going to look at them the same way that I'm going to look at an Upper Deck or a Donruss card. When I look at either a fun pack card or a triple play card, I'm going to be thinking about the youthful energy of what the cards are supposed to do, and they look good. This does not. It's not the mess that we saw with Parkhurst, but it's a different kind of idea. I look at it and all I can think is, isn't that supposed to be in a highlights magazine? That's where you need to push this, get it back over to those magazines. This is not a sports card to me. Whenever I look at it, I go, oh, whatever they started to do at the bottom of the card, they did not honor that at the top. What did you do to Jam Session? Come on, Jam Session cards were awesome. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 3 is very much the opposite, which is Donruss Elite for hockey. And if you're going to take an insert card and turn it into a complete set, use an insert card that will work for a complete set. Donruss had the opportunity to learn the mistake they made with Leaf Limited in the previous year. And you can see with Donruss Elite, they did not do that. The problem with Donruss Elite is that the whole bulk, I shouldn't say the whole, the bulk of the card is chromed. And when you, not like Topps Chrome, which is pretty cool, this is where you have a foil surface chroming the card. And whenever you do that, it's really difficult to see the detail in the card, which means if you're in a binder and you're looking at 9 or 18 of these cards, you see a bunch of boxes with players surrounded by nothing. You got to get the light just right to finally see the design, which might very well be kind of cool, but even when you see the design, it's still tempered by the foil on it. And it means that there's nothing about this card that's distinct, that's clear, that's strong, that's interesting at all. Yeah, it bewilders me why they bothered to do this. I don't know. At any rate, that's number 3. Now, if you're paying attention and you're good at math, you may realize there are only 2 spots left, and I haven't gotten to Fleer proper, and there are 2 spots for Fleer. So guess what? Here we go with Fleer proper. At number 2, I've got a 1A and a 2A and 2B, which is for basketball for the Atlantic and the Western Division. I still don't really remember the division specifically. Whatever division the Celtics are in and whatever division the Houston Rockets are in, those are the 2 divisions. Now, for the Midwest, West, the Great Plains teams, this card design is really annoying because it's a bunch of scribble marks over a distorted not really a distorted background as much as I guess I'd go a stylized background. And the scribble marks drive me nuts. In the case of the David Robinson card, I think that one comes through. That one specifically, or excuse me, is it the whole team? Well, at least with the Robinson card, I think that comes through. There are a few cards that actually work okay when they don't completely destroy the background. So some of the cards do have some potential to work. Whereas when you go with the Atlantic East Coast, the other one, where they did a color distortion of the card, it just looks terrible. Almost every single card is an absolute horrendous mess. And while I get more annoyed by the Western Division cards, these cards are more consistently bad. At any rate, in both cases, these are pretty terrible. But they're not quite at the level of the baseball design for, I think it's the NL East. I think that's what it is. Wherever the Phillies are. That's the conference that basically they did another version of the recolorization or the distorted colorization of the background. But in this case, it's a lot more bold and overpowering. The colors are not as they don't bother me as much as what I saw over with the basketball cards. In this case, the colors are better, but the whole background is so obnoxious, and every time I look at the card, I don't feel ill, but I really, really, really don't like these cards. These cards bug me. I happen to like these the least. And that is my list of the worst card designs of 1995. There are some bad designs in 1995. I mean, they're trying things, and I give them so much credit for trying things. But when you try things, some things just don't come through. And so while like with Fleer, I like the idea that they had the idea of exploring things. I give them credit for that. But then like with Parkhurst and Donruss Elite, they should have known better. So at any rate, that's what makes the 90s so awesome, is all the different variety that we've got. And some have to stink, and boy, oh boy, do these ever. Thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so.